Mamaroneck day laborer site to close.
Mayoral race shapes up enlargement with surprising candidates.
Demographics in the district.
Meet the future business leaders of America.
Is there a new possible site for a skateboard park?
And how you can sneak a peek of the new Mamaroneck High School. Those stories and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehme.
And I'm Maura, Carlin. Our top story. The Mamaroneck Village official day laborer site near Columbus Park is closing. At a January 24th village board meeting, trustees voted 3-2 in favor of a resolution first presented at that meeting to shut down the site with the possibility of reopening on April 1st, but only if the town of Mamaroneck and village of Larchmont agree to open their own sites. Trustee Joe Angeletta, who proposed the resolution, said that when the day laborer site in New Rochelle closed, quote, "The day laborers from New Rochelle swarmed Mamaroneck like locusts and are takers," end quote. Now, for those of you who followed the story in the Journal News, Mr. Angeletta says that he did not, as quoted in that paper, call day laborers locusts. Mariana Boneo-Lavoff, co-president of the Hispanic Resource Center for Larchmont and Mamaroneck, which has been working with village officials to find a better site, not only was blindsided by the village's action, but is dismayed and distraught, and that's a quote. She says it broke a rhythm of work between the stakeholders to finding a new site, and she says that calling day laborers locusts and takers was unacceptable, and says Angeletta should make a formal apology. When asked about issuing an apology, Mr. Angeletta corrected the quote and said that it was not my intention to offend. It was not a characterization, but an analogy. If I offended anyone, for that, I apologize. But in no way does that change my views of the day laborer situation and how unfair it is to the village of Mamaroneck residents, end quote. Mr. Angeletta says he's been contacted by media throughout the country and has received a lot of support, pointing to a News 12 poll showing that 59% of the 228 respondents did not believe that more communities should have official day laborer sites. Trustee Tom Murphy, who I also spoke to, who voted against the resolution along with Mayor Phil Trifoletti, says he was also totally shocked by the resolution, had no idea it was coming. Now, certainly there will be much more on this story, and we'll be following it for you.
The Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club and its owner, Bernard Rosenschein, are in the news again with the proposal to build 32 seasonal residences on land that is owned by the Beach Club. Mamaroneck Village has opposed building these seasonal residences and has based the opposition on a 1984 zoning law that created a marine recreation district. Rosenschein has argued that his building plans are not in violation of the 1984 law. According to him, the 1,000 square foot units would help him to compete with other clubs in the area. In response to his plan, Mamaroneck has also put forward a new set of rules that would restrict residences at beach clubs and would not allow a person to live in such a residence more than 30 days during a calendar year. Beach clubs would also not be allowed to have more than 12 such residences, and none of those buildings could be larger than 600 square feet, and any additional cooking facilities would be prohibited under these rules. Rosenschein filed for an injunction that would prohibit Mamaroneck Village to consider these new rules. Monday, a week ago, a court hearing was scheduled where Mamaroneck Village was given the opportunity to present its case. However, Chief Administrative Judge Jonathan Lipman placed a stay on the legislative process in the village at the end of the hearing by stopping the Mamaroneck Village Board from voting on the proposed further restrictions on seasonal housing. The village board, on the one hand, says that it wants to protect the waterfront. The club owner, Rosenschein, on the other hand, is of the opinion that he should be allowed to go ahead with his plan of constructing the 32 seasonal residences. We're sure to hear more about this story in the coming weeks and months.
Village of Larchmont elections are coming up, and one thing is clear. There will be a choice for voters. Up for grabs are 2 trustee seats and the mayoral chair. Republican trustee and deputy mayor Liz Feld has announced that she is running for mayor against incumbent Republican Mayor Ken Bialo. Now that leaves Feld's trustee seat open, and Democratic trustee Marlene Colbert is seeking re-election for her third term. Newcomer Democrat Jim Milstein will run for the seat vacated by Feld. No word yet on the Democratic mayoral candidate, but according to the Larchmont Gazette, one of the questions is whether Democrats will offer the mayoral candidacy to Liz Feld. The Republican Party has not yet announced any trustee candidates. Both the Republican and Democratic parties will hold their caucuses on January 31st to decide candidates for these positions, and will certainly keep you posted.
At the Mamaroneck Town Board meeting on January 18th, the board received a briefing on the Help America Vote Act that Congress passed in 2002 with the goal of ensuring uniform national voting standards. One result of this legislation is the fact that the management of local elections has passed from the authority of the town clerk to the County Board of Elections. Mamaroneck Town Supervisor Valerie O'Keefe had invited Marion Sinek, who is a Help America Vote Act expert in the office of Senator Hillary Clinton. Ms. Sinek said that New York State was the last state in the Union that still had to comply with the Help America Vote Act. So far, no decision had been made in Westchester County on what type of voting machines the county was going to buy to replace machines that have been in use since the 1960s. Town Supervisor O'Keefe announced at the end of this discussion that she would send a letter on behalf of the board to the County Board of Legislators to urge them to schedule a public meeting for a comprehensive discussion of the Help America Vote Act. The board also discussed an apartment building project that goes by the name Forest City Residential. It is to be constructed on Madison Avenue. The project has not been approved yet, and the board is now calling for a special public meeting on February 8th at 7:30 p.m. Residents are asked to give their input regarding this project. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Mamaroneck Town Board will be on Wednesday, February 1st.
Skateboarding isn't a crime, as the slogan says, but it sure is hard to find a good place for it. At a recent meeting between local municipal and school district officials, the Central School tennis courts became a possible site for skateboarding. The Mamaroneck School District is considering that option, but in order for it to work, the town of Mamaroneck would have to find a place to run its very popular tennis programs, and the schools would have to find courts for the high school's junior varsity team practices. As you may recall, last spring a group of residents proposed putting a skate park at Flint Park when their young skateboarders were being sent away from the Chatsworth Avenue playground. Not much progress was made on that proposal, but skateboarders did return to Chatsworth. Faced with complaints about skateboarder safety, courtesy, and cleanliness, though, it became unclear for how much longer skateboarding will be allowed. Again, as we learn more, you will too.
New York State Comptroller Alan Hevesy will have the Mamaroneck Union Free School District audited in the next round of school district audits by the state. To date, the Comptroller's Office has completed 52 school district audits. The Comptroller's Office notified the school district that this audit would focus on an evaluation of the district's management controls, which are designed to help ensure that district assets are properly safeguarded. The audits by the State Comptroller were initiated as a response to public concerns regarding school district finances. On Long Island, a number of financial scandals were uncovered in several school districts. In a press release, the Mamaroneck Union Free School District has responded to the audit, quote, "We welcome the statewide initiative from Comptroller Hevesy and believe it can help in improving public school financial management and public confidence across the state," end of quote. The Mamaroneck Board of Education also emphasizes that each year independent auditors review ways to strengthen the business operations of the school district. The additional audit by the state would add another layer of scrutiny to the fiscal operations of the Mamaroneck School District. Over the next 5 years, the Office of the State Comptroller plans to audit every school district in New York State.
More arrests in the village of Mamaroneck. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Mike Witch has the story.
Police from Mamaroneck Village and Harrison teamed up last week to stop a quartet of teenagers riding some stolen bicycles. A 17-year-old and 3 of his younger friends, all of whom live in the Bronx, were arrested January 24th and charged with burglary. Police determined that at least 2 of their bikes had been stolen from a garage. The Mamaroneck Village Police Department is calling attention to this example of what they're calling team policing. 2 village police officers responded to the report of suspicious activity along Halstead Avenue. A detective and officer from Harrison also responded. 2 of the youths were detained at the scene, but 2 others fled. The Mamaroneck officers on foot and in patrol cars gave chase. Both boys were soon captured. Additional Harrison police units also responded. To date, 2 of the bikes have been identified as stolen, and the police want to hear from anyone who can identify the other 2 bikes. Contact Youth Officer Joseph Comblow. His number is 777-7728. The police say all information will be treated confidentially. Once more, Mamaroneck Village Youth Officer Joseph Comblow, 777-7728.
How has the population of Mamaroneck schools changed over the last 10 years? Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Glenna Gray found out.
On Tuesday, January 24, 2006, Lloyd Bishop presented his preliminary demographic report to the Mamaroneck School Board. Dr. Bishop has worked for 35 years in this field. His work has carried him to different areas of New York State, and he has previously worked for our school district. Demographic studies are prepared on a regular basis in order to assist the school district in meeting the needs of the students. The purpose of a study is for A, for planning, B, to view your instructional facilities, C, for faculty utilization, D, help in enrollment projections, very important, and E, demographics of the total community. The district and the number of private and parochial schools in it impacts the public school enrollment. There were a series of charts and numbers presented to the board. The board members asked questions and wanted further clarification. Dr. Bishop stated that the final report would be ready in 40 days. At this point, the numbers do not recommend the necessity to redistrict the school system. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Glenna Gray.
Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Mike Witch spoke with Village of Mamaroneck trustee Tom Murphy about marine recreation in the village.
Tom Murphy, welcome back to the LMC News Studios.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure.
In the news recently, there's been some stories about the application by at least one beach club to put up some temporary housing, and I know the term the marine recreation zone has come into play there. What can you tell us about what is a marine recreation zone and what's the history of it?
The history of it really is Mamaroneck was counterintuitive back in the 80s. Back in the 80s, a lot of communities were allowing their waterfront to be built upon, be condos and co-ops right by the water. You'll see it as you go up the Connecticut coastline and into Queens.
And that obviously has not taken place in Mamaroneck Village.
It has not taken place in Mamaroneck. It began on Rushmore, on one Indian Cove there. Yes. And that kind of was the impetus for the Marine Recreation Zone law. And what the law did was it said, you know what, we have these clubs and we have these boatyards, and they're what give Mamaroneck its maritime flavor. And although everybody can't afford a club and everybody can't afford a boatyard, it's quasi-public access to the waterfront. I can enjoy a club when I go there for an event or whatever. And they said, we want to keep these and we want to make them viable. So that they started the Marine Recreation Zone for the clubs and the Marine Commercial Zone for the marinas. And this was 20 some odd years ago, and in the interim, not a club or a marina has gone out of business. So the whole idea was that to have these organizations thrive and to keep them in our community and to keep it a waterfront nautical type community.
Now there are plans, are there not, to build some kind of a new playground at Harbor Island? How does Harbor Island figure into the zone?
Right. I guess part of the impetus too was not only for the people who who live on the water, but for people like us who don't live on the water, our access to the water is Harbor Island, and you don't want to sit in Harbor Island and look at condos all over the place. You like to look at boatyards and nice houses. There's a lot of stuff going on in Harbor Island now. We have a master plan that the board adopted in November of 2004, right before I was on the Harbor Island Master Plan Committee, but they adopted it right before I became a trustee. It's a very good plan. It's very complicated and it'll take a while to implement, but it's one of the things that's being worked on right now is the Harbor Island Conservancy, which is a group that is a private group that raises money. They're trying to build a new playground in Harbor Island, which we desperately need. I have children who are playground age still, and the playground equipment it's seen seen better days, and you know, there's much more state-of-the-art playgrounds now, and a lot of the kids and mothers in the neighborhood are going to another community to use the playground facility. And you know, this is Mamaroneck. We don't need to have people going to other communities when, you know, we have enough money to build a nice playground. We should take care of that ourselves.
Okay. So the zone is going to stay as is, as far as you know?
Well, that's really the rub. There is a draft law that we're working on now, and the draft law, what it seeks to do is it seeks to define the accessory use of seasonal housing. Seasonal housing was put into the original law because Beach Point had a couple of rooms above for guests, for members who I guess for some reason their wives kicked them out. They had to stay overnight, but to accommodate that and to make it to not make that non-conforming, they put into the law seasonal residences. What we're trying to do now is define seasonal residences, and there's a draft law, and it defines seasonal residence as a less than 600 square feet room or set of rooms without cooking facilities, and no club can have more than 12. So that, you know, we are not denying clubs seasonal residences, but we're trying to limit them because the whole impetus behind the law was to not have residential along the water.
Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Glenna Gray introduces us to the future business leaders of America and their accomplishments.
It's my pleasure again to welcome you to LMC-TV. This is about my third or fourth time interviewing your organization, FBLA. What does that mean?
Future Business Leaders of America.
And how does Mamaroneck fall into this category? How do you get a chapter?
Well, basically each school has one organization of FBLA, and they go to a district meeting once a year and a state meeting, and then in turn national. If you make it to the next level, then national.
So throughout New York State, there are other students just like you are.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, when I was in high school, it was called, forgotten. Okay, what do you do for the organization?
I'm a vice president, and I lead the Partnership of Business project. Each vice president gets their own project. We are working with the Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce and developing websites for some of their members in exchange for a lecture and some insight into the entrepreneurship process.
Oh, great. And you?
I'm the Vice President of Community Service. We're working with the Blythedale Children's Hospital in Valhalla, New York. We're spending our time there volunteering with the children and just playing with them, and we're also fundraising money with them by volunteering to babysit at the elementary schools in Larchmont.
Oh.
And I'm vice president of the American Enterprise Project, which basically means we have to start some sort of business. So this year we started a business with a local charity, Free the Children, and we made a candy selling company in order to raise money to fight the child labor cycle.
Oh, it almost sounds like The Apprentice. And you?
I'm the reporter, so I write the articles, and any projects we do or any special events we have, I write an article and I send it to the Soundview News and other local newspapers.
Oh, and what is this I see on the table?
That is our Chapter of the Year trophy from last year. We won 4th place, and we're extremely proud of that, which means that we are 4th in all of New York State, so it's something I'm quite proud of.
How did you achieve this? What was the project? Or was it the total?
Well, the state provides a set of guidelines, and each event or thing on the list that you do, you get a certain number of points. So whichever school gets the most points would be first in Chapter of the Year.
All right, so this goes from September until June?
Yes.
Yes.
With nationals being in July.
In July?
Yeah.
Oh, and so national means it could be held in Georgia or Washington, D.C.?
Last year it was in
Or-
Orlando.
Yeah, and the
Where?
year before that.
Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, oh, Florida.
This
Oh.
year it's in Tennessee.
Tennessee. Oh, so wonderful. You get a chance to see this great country. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about FBLA? Do you highly recommend it?
Yes.
I do. I recommend it. I think it's a great chapter to have. Well, thank you for coming in.
Want to see the new Mamaroneck High School? Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Imani Harrison tells you how and when.
MHS students are inviting all parents to see what many may call the new MHS, including a whole new wing of science departments, a cafe which has been remodeled after the restaurant Cosey's, and a long overpass with which students can sit down and take advantage of their study hall or free period. All parents are invited on Sunday, February 12th at 12 o'clock noon to meet Dr. Paul Freed, Superintendent of Schools, and students of MHS who will be guiding all the adults on a tour of our new wing for the new school. You are also invited to join the Mamaroneck School Board for refreshments in the new cafe. Now, if you're unable to attend for any reason, please call this number, 220-3070, that's 220-3070, to arrange a private student-led tour during school hours. I hope you come. I'm sure you will enjoy the experience. Thank you. With Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Imani Harrison.
Defend yourself. Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Rory Roth tells about a new martial arts school.
There's a new Taekwondo school in Rhinebeck. The Wan Taekwondo School is located at 931 East Boston Post Road and teaches kids 5 to adult fitness, discipline, and confidence. This past week, the school had its grand opening. The school teaches basic and form for beginners who will then move on to sparring and breaking. If you check the January edition of the Penny Saver, you will find a large ad with the discount coupons for a free trial lesson and one for a free martial arts uniform. For more information on the Wan Taekwondo School, you can call Wan at 698-7888, or you can email him at dwantkd@yahoo.com. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Rory Roth.
We'd like to welcome and thank Rory. This is her first night here, and stay tuned to the end and find out how you can get involved.
Before we end this newscast, we thought we'd share with you the following singles ad that appeared in a local newspaper according to internet reports. Just listen to this. Single black female seeks male companionship. Age and ethnicity unimportant. I'm a young, svelte, good-looking girl who loves to play. I love long walks in the woods, riding in your pickup truck, hunting, camping, and fishing trips. I love cozy winter nights spent lying by the fire. Candlelight dinners will have me eating out of your hand. Rub me the right way and watch me respond. I'll be at the front door when you get home from work. Kiss me and I'm yours. Call and ask for Daisy. That's the end of the ad. Well, the number was for the Humane Society, and Daisy was an 8-week-old black Labrador retriever. They received 643 calls in just 2 days. And Sven, did you know that you can see Aladdin, the play? Really? Yes, Homics and talented students there are putting on their production of Aladdin. It will be February 2nd to February 4th, and the community is welcome to come. It's, let me give you the details, Thursday, February 2nd at 7 p.m., Friday, February 3rd at 7 p.m., and on Saturday, February 4th, there's a 2 p.m. matinee and a 7 p.m. show, and I'm sure it's great for the kids.
There are 4 shows.
That's right. Tickets are $10 for adults and $8 for students, and they're all available on a first-come, first-served basis. So get out there and see the middle school students perform.
And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News.
If you want to see this news show again, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 p.m. We record one show each week, and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV, channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see it, you can call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the news show, and they will try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
And this reminder, this news program is an all-volunteer effort, and we can use a few more volunteers, either behind the scenes or as a reporter, or maybe you'd like to shoot video. Whatever the case, we need you.
In short, if you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, we have something for you to do. Just stop by some Thursday night in the LMC-TV studios and see how we do what we do.
The LMC-TV studios are in the Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs from the landmark Walter's Hot Dog Stand. We get things started around 7 p.m. and we'd love to see you.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video of an event that you would like us to put on this news show, bring it to the studio or write to us at Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News in care of LMC-TV, 740 West Boston Post Road, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Maura Carlin.
And I'm Sven Oehme. See you next week.
update on the Mamaroneck Day Laborer site closing.
including the vigil held at the site.
The appeals court rules on the Kemper Memorial.
Who are the candidates in the village of Larchmont?
It's time to start thinking about running for the Mamaroneck School Board.
And local boxes of love to Katrina kids. Those stories and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Mike Witch.
And I'm Maura Carlin. Our top story. Closing the official day laborer hiring spot at Columbus Park in Mamaroneck created, to say the least, a spark, not just here but throughout the county and the country. Village of Mamaroneck trustee Bill Panessa and Hispanic Resource Center co-president Mariana Lavoff appeared on News 12's Newsmakers program, which was devoted to discussing the day laborer situation in the county. Trustee Joe Angeletta, who is at the heart of the controversy over his use of the word locusts, was contacted by the O'Reilly Factor on Fox Network as well as others. We told you last week that Angeletta apologized if his language offended anyone, but stood by his sentiment, and he has since issued a formal statement. Westchester County legislator Bernice Spreckman, a Republican from Yonkers, has invited all Westchester mayors and supervisors for a diversity committee meeting and roundtable discussion on the day laborer situation. That meeting is scheduled for February 7th. And the governing boards of the town of Mamaroneck and the villages of Larchmont and Mamaroneck will hold a joint work session to discuss the situation on February 3rd. The official site closed as of February 1, despite attempts by the Hispanic Resource Center to persuade officials to reverse their decision. Village of Mamaroneck Mayor Phil Trifoletti polled all of the trustees and, upon finding no change in position, announced that the hiring site would close, and it did close. Hispanic leaders organized a vigil at the site on February 1st, attended by nearly 200 people. The event included speeches from Rabbi Jeffrey Siegelman of the Westchester Jewish Center, Dr. Paul Freed, the superintendent of the Mamaroneck Schools, Reverend Deborah Tamaru, who's the rector of St. Thomas Church, and Louis Quieros, chairman of Westcop, a social services organization. A moving speech was given by Laurentino Nava, a day laborer and artist.
Que quede bien claro que ninguno de nosotros ha llegado aquí.
I want to be very clear. I don't think any of us have come here to push somebody else out of work. The kinds of jobs that we do are rough and difficult, and the salaries that we are paid are low, and we don't think anyone else wants that work.
Aquí vivimos, aquí pagamos renta.
We live here. We pay rent here. We eat in the pizzerias. We eat in the restaurants. I don't know why other people say we don't come here, we don't live here, we don't come here, and we don't contribute to this village.
Dr. Quieros told Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News that he's optimistic, especially, quote, with the tri-municipal meeting with Supervisor O'Keefe, Mayor Bialo, and Mayor Trifoletti. He said these are, quote, phenomenal leaders who I respect and who understand the issues and are compassionate. Between all of us, we can come up with a good solution, end quote. But he went on to say we can find that solution. It's not about that site in particular. We want an indoor site and the issues in good hands. Of course, we'll keep you posted.
The Mamaroneck Board of Education has won what may be the final legal battle in regard to the Kemper Memorial Park on its property. On January 24th, the Appellate Division of the State Supreme Court reversed the lower court ruling and decided that the district's plan for the memorial and the park is consistent with the terms of the deeds that granted the property to the school district. The Board of Education, pleased by the ruling, issued a statement that, quote, the decision clearly confirms the board's position over the last several years that the proposed creation of the critically needed additional playing field and the reconfiguration of the memorial area as presented to the community is consistent with the terms of the gift, unquote. The statement continues, quote, it has always been the board's objective that the proposed reconfiguration appropriately honor the sacrifice of the Mamaroneck students and other community members who gave their lives in the service of the United States of America in World War II, unquote. The judges were unanimous in reversing the lower court decision. The court also determined that Richard Cantor, who had tried to stop the district, did not have legal standing to enforce the terms of the covenant in the deed. It was Cantor's grandfather, Adolf Kemper, who donated the land and memorial in 1945. The appellate judges said that the Attorney General of the state has the responsibility to ensure charitable gifts, such as the donation of property, that property is utilized in a manner consistent with terms of the gift. For those who fought against the district's plans, the appellate court's decision was disturbing. That, according to a statement issued by the Kemper Memorial Park Preservation Fund that said, quote, "It is an outrage that Elliot Spitzer, the state attorney general, concurred with the school board that the proposed plan respected the expressed intent of the donors. One of the donors, Jean Kemper Hoffman, according to the fund's statement, is still alive and has attested to the intent of the donors. Says the fund, quote, "With his stand, Spitzer has effectively put all donations at risk," unquote. According to the statement, the fund's supporters will continue efforts to protect the park and the memorial. For its part, the school district says that it's now reviewing its options, including the funds needed for the project, and promises to involve all segments of the community in the process.
Mike, so is the district proceeding with the plan?
Well, 3 board members have formed a small committee to continue investigating the options. Budgets have been passed and approved, so there may not be enough funding. Costs have gone up in the 2 years since this has been proposed, and they do promise, however, to reach out to community groups.
Okay, is it possible that the people for the Kemper Memorial, the preservation group, may appeal the decision?
Yes, Mr. Cantor has 30 days, but he has to ask the court for permission to appeal. It's not an automatic right because they found that he has no legal standing.
Okay, and do you happen to know what the proposed new site looks like?
Yes, because the school has drawings, an architect's drawings. In fact, I have 2 small representations of them here. They're a little hard to see on camera. If people wanted to see what the proposal looked like, they could go into the district superintendent's office because that's where the drawings are. This is the existing Kemper Memorial Park, and the proposal would move it about 40 yards to one side. And what the proposed new park would look like is in this architect's drawing. So it actually looks quite nice.
Who will run for office in the village of Larchmont? With 2 Republicans seeking to run for mayor and 2 trustee seats up for election this season, all eyes were on the party caucuses recently held. On January 30th, the Independent Party selected incumbent Mayor Ken Bialo as their mayoral candidate, with 11 votes to trustee Liz Feld's 9. Independent Party candidates Peter Finelli and Phil Johansson were selected without opposition. And on January 31st, both the Republicans and the Democrats held their caucuses. The Republicans gave Ken Bialo the nod with 162 votes to Liz Feld's 93. They also chose Peter Finelli and Michael Bucci as candidates for trustee. The Democrats unanimously endorsed incumbent Marlene Colbert and newcomer Jim Milstein for trustee. There were no Democratic nominees for mayor, but here with more is Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Glenna Gray.
The Village of Larchmont Democrats has selected Marlene Colbert and Jim Milstein to run for trustees of the village. Ms. Colbert is a trustee. Mr. Milstein is an experienced lawyer and investment banker and a family man. Besides his vast legal and financial knowledge, he is the coach for a girls' basketball team. Mr. Milstein sits on the board of the Larchmont Library and the Sound Shore Hospital in New Rochelle. Resident Tim Brosnan asked, why is it the Democrats was not running a candidate for mayor? Trustee McAndrews responded that several people were asked to consider the run, but at this point in time, no one was able to commit to the responsibility. The campaign has begun, and the trail will end on Election Day, which is Tuesday, March 21st, 2006. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I am Glenna Gray.
The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, is proposing to redesign the airspace over our metropolitan area. The agency is holding a hearing February 9th in the auditorium of Murray Avenue School to hear what local residents think of the plan. The meeting starts at 6:30 in the evening. For the past 5 years, the FAA has been studying ways to, as it puts it, increase efficiency, reduce delays, and support the airline industry. However, according to a local Quiet Skies committee, changes to the airspace plan could have significant impact on the quality of life along the Sound Shore. Says Patty Horing, a member of Quiet Skies, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to protect our airspace for the future. She says it's important to have a show of force at the meeting, since the attendance becomes part of the public record and may impact the final outcome. The more organized the community is on this issue, she says, the greater the chance of securing peace and quiet for the future. Quiet Skies of WRAIN, which formed a few years ago to oppose development of an IKEA in New Rochelle, is led by 6 residents from the town of Mamaroneck and the villages of Larchmont and Mamaroneck. Michael Alfieri, a Larchmont attorney and a Quiet Skies member, adds, the changes implemented as a result of the airspace redesign will create new flight patterns that could last for decades, for better or more likely for worse. Alfieri says his group is working to analyze the possible impacts of the quality of life in Larchmont and Mamaroneck and ensure that our area does not become a dumping ground for incoming LaGuardia air traffic, as we experienced in the spring and summer of 2000 and 2001. Moreover, he warns, new technology could greatly increase the number of planes flying overhead. Quiet Skies is about protecting our future, our peace and quiet, and our real estate values, Alfieri says. You can review the draft environmental impact statement at the Larchmont Library Reference Room, and it's also available online. Once again, that meeting is in the auditorium of Murray Avenue School, Thursday, February 9th. Sign-in starts at 6:30, followed by a video, one-on-one discussion, and a question-answer panel. The meeting should end at 9. For those who have a comment but can't attend the hearing, written comments may be submitted to the FAA until June of this year.
Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Kathy Gilwitt names of the new school district's Citizens Committee.
The Mamaroneck Board of Education has established a Citizens Advisory Committee to review the district's financial planning and business practices. Out of an unprecedented 27 applicants, the board chose 9 members, up from the 7 originally planned back in November. Eric Berg, Bradford Burkett, Douglas Kligot, Melvin Gardner, Emily Salzman-Hoffner, Michael Jacobson, Lisa Perry, Louis Quiros, and Jeffrey Rogoff will all serve. Cecilia Absher, vice president of the board, said they were thrilled with the response and are pleased that members are professionally diverse and from various parts of the community. She said, quote, "We believe the district will be well served," unquote. The CFAC will be chaired by Dr. Christine Grucci, assistant superintendent for business operations, and school board member and budget committee member Lynette C. will serve as liaison. C expects the new board to become familiar with the budgeting process this year and be fully up to speed in 2007, which is also a year for contract negotiations. C added that while the committee has a projected finish date of 2007, she could envision it continuing, noting that so many of the district's initiatives were long-term in nature and the board needed to look ahead and plan appropriately. The first meeting of the CFAC will be in mid-March. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Kathy Gilwitt.
Interested in running for the Mamaroneck School Board or in selecting candidates? Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Rory Roth tells you how you can get involved.
Attention potential candidates for the Mamaroneck Board of Education. The Committee for the Selection of School Board Trustee, a nonpartisan school group, is looking for candidates to run for School Board Trustee in the May 16th election. It's a 3-year position with no pay. The current board president, Celia Felsher, will be stepping down, as well as School Board Trustee Alan Parter. Incumbent Lynette C. is seeking re-election but will seek the committee's endorsement first. If you're interested, you can apply at the Selection Committee's website, which can be downloaded at www.selectioncommittee.org. Completed applications can be sent to lm.cellcom@yahoo.com by the 15th of February. In order to be considered, you must be a U.S. citizen, able to read and write, and be residents of the Larchmont Mamaroneck community for at least 1 year before the date of the school election. If you're interested in serving on the selection committee, you can also get that application for the website and email. Completed applications should go to lm.cellcom@yahoo.com by April 21st. Selection committee members are elected by public vote as well. For any more questions or inquiries, you may visit the school's board's website at www.mamkschools.org. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Roy Roth.
Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Glenna Gray has lots of love, boxes of it.
The victims of Hurricane Katrina will be receiving love in a box. Families and business people in the Mamaroneck and Rhinebeck School District will use shoe boxes filled with school items for students in East Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Besides the practical tools for the classroom, the boxes will be beautifully decorated as if it was a gift for someone you knew. Linda Ryan of Larchmont and Catherine O'Leary of Rhinebeck conceived and implemented the project. The participating schools are Rhinebeck Schools Daniel Warren and the Bellows School. For Mamaroneck, it's Central School, Mamaroneck Avenue, and Murray Avenue schools. This is the first time the two school districts have worked together for this American tragedy. The committee has also received private funding. The Carlin Brothers Moving Corporation in Larchmont will deliver the boxes of love during the week of February 13th. The other business backing this project is the Sound Shore Liquor Pantry in Mamaroneck. Bobby Vabaro raised $1,000 to help the victims. The way to go, Mamaroneck. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Glenna Gray.
And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
If you'd like to see this news show again, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 o'clock. We record one show each week, and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV, channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see it, you can. Call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the news show. They'll try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
And this reminder, this news program is an all-volunteer effort, and we could use a few more volunteers, either behind the scenes or as a reporter. Or maybe you'd like to shoot video. Whatever the case, we need you.
In short, if you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, we have something for you to do. Stop by some Thursday night in the LMC-TV studios and see how we do what we do.
The LMC-TV studios are in Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue building, just up the stairs, across from landmark Walter's Hot Dog Stand. We get things started around 7 p.m. and we'd love to see you.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video of an event that you'd like us to put on this news show, bring it to the studio or write to us at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News in care of LMC-TV, Mamaroneck Town Center, 740 West Boston Post Road, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Mike Witch.
And I'm Maura Carlin. We'll see you next week. What's the latest on the day laborer situation?
Will sewer taxes go sky high?
Can Assemblyman Latimer assemble more state money for localities?
Who will raise money for the Flint Park Nature Park?
And how to talk to your teenager? The answers to those questions and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Sven Oehme.
And I'm Maura Carlin. Our top story. Day laborers continue to be a hot topic in our area as well as around the county. 2 official meetings recently were held to discuss the situation. First, Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Glenna Gray reports on the February 3rd tri-municipal meeting held in Mamaroneck.
On Friday, February 3rd, 2006, Supervisor Valerie O'Keefe convened a joint work session for the entire municipality of Mamaroneck, which includes the village of Mamaroneck and the village of Larchmont. The purpose of the work session was to gather information concerning the day laborers and the contractors' situation in the community. Supervisor O'Keefe noted that the federal government has left this problem to be solved at the local level. The federal government has the power over naturalization and the migration into the nation. Mayor Trifoletti of Mamaroneck Village explained that many day workers come from other areas, including the communities on Metro North Railroad line. The increase of workers has been mounting because other communities are closing their sites. He further stated that Mamaroneck has dealt with the situation for over 20 years, and the numbers have increased, so they had to close the site. Mayor Bialo of Larchmont reinforced the idea that information was vital in order to find a solution to the problem. Dr. Cantha and Luis Quiros presented an overview of the success New Rochelle has had with their problem of day laborers and contractors. They developed a research project in order to examine all areas of the problem. It became clear that the site of contact between worker and contractor was critical. The site works best when it is under private auspices. A coordinator is necessary. Restroom facilities are necessary. An indoor site is better than one outdoors. A police presence is helpful to keep traffic moving and to prevent any unnecessary disturbances. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I am Glenna Gray.
Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Kathy Gilwitt attended a county meeting on February 7th.
The February 7th meeting was called by County Legislator Bernie Spreckman, chair of the newly formed Committee on Generational, Cultural, and Ethnic Diversity, because of the problem of day laborers was, quote, getting bigger and bigger, and exacerbated by the closing of the Mamaroneck site. Portchester Mayor Gerald Logan and New Rochelle City Manager Charles Strom and Councilman Roberto Lopez outlined the successes of their sites, while representatives from Ossining, Yonkers, and Mamaroneck detailed their challenges. Supervisor O'Keefe said that after last Friday's meeting, the town was considering imitating New Rochelle's model, including conducting a survey of the workers, finding a location on private property, and hiring a site manager. O'Keefe also said she liked the idea of a carpenter's hall, where each worker would pay $1 or $5 daily into a pot for the privilege of using the hiring site. Trustee Panessa defended the village's decision to close the Columbus Park site and told the committee it was a matter of cooperation between the surrounding communities. He said that the lack of hiring sites in Harrison, Rye, Larchmont, and the town of Mamaroneck begged the question why, and said if the village were to step back on their decision, it would take the pressure off. One committee member in particular brought up the weeks-old remark by Mamaroneck trustee Joe Angeletta when he compared the movement of laborers into Mamaroneck to that of locusts. Jose Alvarado of Yonkers said he took that comment very personally. The truth of the matter is, immigrants are here, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere, he declared. County Board Chairman Bill Ryan commented at the end of the meeting that the testimony gave the committee a good start on a number of fronts by both showing successful models as well as suggesting how the county could provide resources. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Kathy Gilwitt.
As he did when he was county legislator, Democrat George Latimer, who's now an assemblyman representing our area in Albany, is staying in touch with his constituents. On January 28, he met with them in an open session at the Nautilus Diner in Mamaroneck. Also part of the session was former Mamaroneck Town Councilwoman and now Westchester County Legislator Judy Myers, a Democrat. At the meeting, Latimer offered his criticism of the budget for New York State for 2006 and 2007 as proposed by Governor George Pataki. In Latimer's view, New York State needs to do more for the local governments. Under the governor's budget proposal, only an increase of less than 3.5% will reach our communities. He's saying that more funds should come from the state level to help keep property tax increases at an acceptable level. Latimer laid out his proposal in detail for our 3 municipalities. His plan was quoted in the Journal News, quote, "Currently, the village of Mamaroneck receives $127,731 in state aid for the current fiscal year. Larchmont receives $62,251. The town of Mamaroneck receives $121,341. End of quote. The governor's proposal raises these amounts by 3.3%, which Latimer thinks is not enough. Under his proposal, an additional 11.8% would go to the municipalities. The town of Mamaroneck would receive an additional $18,000, Mamaroneck Village $19,000, and Larchmont $9,000. And that is in addition to the current amounts. Maura?
Thanks, Sven. Want the public involved? Well, put out a sign. The posting of temporary signs where proposed town of Mamaroneck traffic and or parking restrictions might be imposed brought residents to the town meeting. This instance involved a traffic committee recommendation that a new no parking zone be created on the northeast side of Cooper Lane between Weaver Street and Marden Lane. When no one showed up for an earlier meeting, the town rescheduled and posted signs. And this time, residents came, were heard, and had an impact. In fact, the no parking zone was shortened to the area between Weaver Street and the telephone pole at 28 Cooper Lane because residents said a wider zone was unnecessary and could pose problems for disabled neighbors. So keep a lookout for signs in your neighborhood.
The Westchester County Board of Legislators is currently reviewing whether the sewer costs in the 13 sewer districts of the county should be distributed differently. If the current proposal were adopted, the taxes for some county residents would go down by hundreds of dollars, and others would have to pay more. Out of almost 1 million inhabitants of Westchester County, roughly 800,000 are residents in a sewer district. At the moment, the two extremes are Yonkers residents, where an average tax bill is $104, and Portchester, where it is $628. For the Mamaroneck Sewer District, the 2005 average tax was $396. The average tax for 2006 is $430, but under the proposal, which would consolidate the various taxes in the districts, Mamaroneck residents would pay an average for 2006 of $536. If the proposal were approved, Mamaroneck would actually become the most expensive district. Mamaroneck Town Supervisor Valerie Keefe was quoted in the Journal News, quote, I don't want it, it is that simple, end of quote, and we will keep you posted.
The Flint Park Conservancy is raising money to support the $50,000 pledge it made to develop a nature area as part of the Flint Park remake. The area will run along the back of the park, overlooking the Long Island Sound, and will feature a walking path, an osprey nesting platform, and native trees like white oak and cedar. The path will allow visitors to walk along the coastline and will connect to the path in the Hommocks Conservancy area. Now, the Conservancy has also teamed up with real estate professionals for this effort. Realtor Suzanne Montecure of Houlihan Lawrence will make a donation for each property listed with her. And John Steigerwald of Fidelity & Trust will also make contributions. Now, you may recognize John's name. He's been in at the news show before as a triathlete competing in Ironman competitions to raise funds for the Conservancy for the playground at Flint Park. The Conservancy already has raised $10,000 for the nature area in a short time. If you want to help, donations can be sent to Flint Park Conservancy, Post Office Box 918, Larchmont, New York 10538, and you make checks payable to Flint Park Conservancy.
A former local accountant has pleaded guilty to the charges brought against him by Westchester County District Attorney Jeanette D. Fiore. Ellen Russo, who was an accountant in Mamaroneck Village and also in Harrison, has pleaded guilty to second-degree grand larceny and first-degree scheming to defraud. He told his clients that he would invest their funds, and in total he received $750,000 from 8 individuals. The criminal actions took place between October 22nd and December 31st of 2001. At the time, he had an office at 400 Mamaroneck Avenue, and in addition, he also operated from another location at 1600 Harrison Avenue. Russo is currently in prison and serving the 5-year federal sentence. In that case, he was also sentenced for fraud-related offenses. On March 29th, he will appear in Westchester County Court and will then be sentenced on the current charges that he has now pleaded guilty to.
Thanks, Sven. We get to join Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Glenna Gray in the Real Estate Corner.
Welcome to the Real Estate Corner. The figures are available for homes in our community. They are as follows. For private homes, there were 82 available, from $399,000 to $12,900,000. Condominiums available were 10, starting at $325,000 to $749,000. Co-ops were 47. They began at $109,000 to $729,000. And multifamily houses, there were 10, from $578,000 to $949,000. These figures were obtained from Wycott Realtors in Larchmont. 833-0800. Don't forget, the numbers change as I speak. Another question was asked of me. What is a reverse mortgage? The correct name is the Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, which is backed by the Federal Housing Administration as well as the Federal National Mortgage Association. Number 1, not all banks provide reverse mortgages. 2, with a home equity conversion mortgage, it pays you each month. 3, no payment is made as long as you occupy your home as a primary residence. That means no repayment. Number 4, if you are 62 or older and own your home debt-free, you could apply for a reverse mortgage. 5, you should discuss any tax issues with a professional financial person. I'll get back to this question again. This information came from the Bank of New York in Larchmont. For Larchmont Community News, I am Glenna Gray.
While Metro-North commuters are happy that they don't have to deal with delayed or canceled trains because of bad weather so far this winter, the railroad is looking at the future, and it is trying to identify what the railroad cars of the end of the decade should look like. The railroad is conducting focus groups until the end of March. And so far, the participants have been critical of the current cars, and many of the criticism that has been voiced is recurring. It is about poor lighting on the train, about the condition and the size of the bathrooms, and also the dull color schemes. These are the major points of criticism. The feedback from all focus groups is going to be sent to an interior designer for railroad cars, and we can only hope that the new designs will eventually appear on the trains in our area.
I wonder what dull colors they're referring to and what colors I'd like to see.
Maybe a little brighter colors.
Yellow. Find out how to talk to and manage your teens. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Imani A. Harrison, and a teen herself, tells you where to go.
It is 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? Do you worry that they are out possibly smoking, drinking, or performing inappropriate behavior? And how do you communicate with them? Well, look no further. Mike Nerney is attending Mamaroneck High School on Tuesday, March 21st at 7:30 p.m. in the Pace Auditorium. Mike Nerney works with teenagers throughout the world, so he will be teaching you how to communicate with your child in their language. You will learn how to have discussions with your teenager and what they really are doing on the weekends. Mike Nerney is a pleasure to have because he's always giving great presentations as well as constructive advice. I recommend any adult to come because not only is it a great experience, but it is a start to a new beginning of communication with your teenage child. Thank you, and with Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Imani Harrison.
And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
If you want to see this news show again, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 p.m. We record one show each week, and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV, channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see it, you can. Call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the news show. They will try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
And this reminder, this news program is an all-volunteer effort, and we could use a few more volunteers, either behind the scenes or as a reporter, or maybe you'd like to shoot video. Whatever the case, we need you.
In short, if you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, we have something for you to do. Stop by some Thursday night in the LMC-TV studios and see how we do what we do.
The LMC-TV studios are in the Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs across from the landmark Walter's hot dog stand. And we get things started around 7 p.m. and we would love to see you.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video of an event that you'd like us to put on this news show, bring it to the studio or write to us at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News in care of LMC-TV, Mamaroneck Town Center, 740 West Boston Post Road, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543. Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Maura Carlin.
And I'm Sven Oehme. See you next week.
Big win for the Westchester Day School.
An update on the Larchmont campaign trail.
Efforts to cut airplane noise in our area.
Oscar night results, how our locals fared.
Property reevaluation, it's back on the table.
And middle schoolers learn why they need school. Those stories and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Mike Witch.
And I'm Maura Carlin. Our top story. Westchester Day School can build an addition, says a federal judge. And the controversial federal law on religious land use, the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, or RLUIPA, was deemed constitutional. As you may recall, in 2001, the Village of Mamaroneck denied the school's application for a special permit to build a 44,000 square foot building on its campus for classrooms and room for meetings and prayers. The day school filed a lawsuit in federal district court seeking protection under RLUIPA, which makes it difficult for municipalities to prohibit the expansion of religious institutions. This decision for the day school, though, doesn't end the matter yet. The school will seek over $5 million in damages for attorney's fees and delay in construction, which are allowed under RLUIPA. The village can appeal the decision, and the case could ultimately go to the United States Supreme Court. Or the village and the school could settle, avoiding additional legal fees and the possible additional money sought by the day school. Is the village going to appeal?
You know, we haven't sat down with our attorneys yet and hashed out a plan for the after decision. I assume that's one of the options we're going to be looking at. Hopefully, you know, maybe there might be another way of reaching a settlement, but you know, the appeal option is always open.
How long do you have to decide about an appeal? Do you know yet?
I honestly don't know yet. We have to really, you know, we haven't actually sat down with the attorneys who handled the case and you know, had a frank discussion about what happened and where we are and where we'll go from here.
Any idea of the odds of settling?
You know what? I think anytime you're involved in litigation that's both costly and emotionally, brings out the emotions in people, I think, you'd be foolish not to think about settling.
I read that the school is going to be seeking attorney's fees and damages. Is that allowed under RLUIPA?
It's definitely allowed under RLUIPA. It's called for under RLUIPA. We've already, the Village of Mamaroneck has spent upwards of $750,000 on attorney's fees on this case. And I imagine that the day school would have similar or larger costs.
Now, I know you've seen the decision, right?
Yes, I read all 160 pages.
I have a question for you. The village attorney, lead attorney, Mr. Plunkett, was quoted in the Journal News, I believe, saying that the opinion cites a statute recognizing the potential for a different opinion. Do you know what he's referring to?
No, I honestly don't.
Okay.
He also was quoted in the paper as saying that it's a veiled victory. But, I didn't find that in my reading, but maybe he'd be able to better educate me on that. But I didn't see any potential for anything that you would cite to that's a victory for the village. It was pretty brutal in some instances. So we have our work cut out for us.
Have the trustees had a chance to discuss this at all among yourselves? Has it been discussed at a public meeting?
As a group, no.
Okay. Is there a meeting coming up to discuss it?
Well, we have a board meeting Monday night on the 13th of March.
Is this on the agenda?
I'm sure it wouldn't be on a public agenda, but it's something you would discuss in executive session. You would discuss litigation in executive session, litigation strategy.
Okay, and that's a closed session?
Yes, that's a closed session.
We'll keep you posted.
March 21st is Election Day in the village of Larchmont. Voters will elect a mayor and 2 trustees. Ken Bialo, a Republican, is seeking his 3rd 2-year term as mayor. Running with him as trustee candidates are fellow Republicans Peter Finelli and Michael Bucci. Running against them are the current deputy mayor, Liz Feld, also a Republican. She's partnered with 2 Democrats running for trustee seats, newcomer Jim Milstein, an investment banker, and incumbent trustee Marlene Colbert. The 3 of them are running on the Larchmont Coalition line and the People Before Politics line. The Democrats, as such, have not named a candidate for mayor. Feld, Milstein, and Colbert have decided to work together because they want, in their words, to change the tenor of the village board. If elected, they're calling for the hiring of a village engineer as well as a village manager. Mayor Bialo feels that Larchmont village government is already efficient, open, and accessible. And while he's opposed to hiring a village manager, he says he would consider hiring a village engineer. Bialo's running mates are Peter Finelli, who owns a theatrical lighting company, and Michael Bucci, who is a lawyer. In an interesting and somewhat unusual twist for village politics, for the first time in recent memory, a local union has endorsed a candidate. The Larchmont Police Benevolent Association has endorsed trustee Liz Feld's candidacy for mayor.
There's no simple solution for the ongoing day laborer situation, and local and county officials continue to discuss the issues. Although the village of Mamaroneck officially closed the Columbus Park hiring site, potential workers continue to gather there seeking employment under the eye of 1 or 2 police cars stationed there. On February 27th, the Westchester County Legislators' Diversity Committee continued the dialogue started on February 7th, following the closure of the Mamaroneck site, but there's no resolution. The next step is for the committee to distribute a questionnaire based on information received at those February meetings and distribute it to the municipalities to determine how the county can assist local governments in relieving the tension over the presence of hiring sites.
The town of Mamaroneck is moving towards a town-wide property revaluation. The last one was done in 1968. In conjunction with the city of New Rochelle, the town authorized a feasibility study at the last town board meeting on March 1st. Thomas Frey Appraisal will review the feasibility of reassessment of 8,000 parcels in Mamaroneck and New Rochelle. The study in the town will cover Mamaroneck and Larchmont villages and the unincorporated area. Mamaroneck will have to carry 1/3 of the expense, which will be $5,000. The town board expects to learn from the study about different valuation practices, methodologies, and also to get an estimate of how this would affect the property owners. In Westchester County, only the town of Rye and the town of Pelham have carried out a reassessment. The reevaluation in Rye, especially in the Rye Neck section that belongs to Mamaroneck Village, has generated a lot of controversy. Homeowners there have suggested seceding from Rye.
Village trustee Tom Murphy stopped by our studio to discuss land use issues. Okay, land use issues in the Village of Mamaroneck. First, the C1 zone and the infill housing.
Okay.
Why don't you just briefly, for those who aren't familiar with what that refers to?
The C1 zone is the area in the village that's zoned commercial. And there's a provision in the village code that you can put what's called infill housing in that commercial zone, which normally wouldn't be allowed. And
there's a limit on how much and
of the housing?
Of the housing.
There's a limit. It's actually a pretty liberal limit. On certain parts of the C1 zone, like Mamaroneck Avenue and the Boston Post Road, you're allowed to build up to 50 feet, which is a pretty significant building. On other parts of the C1 zone, like Old White Plains Road and a couple other areas, you're allowed to build up to 40 feet. So, my idea is, to put a moratorium on infill housing, not on the whole, on anything in the C1 zone, just on infill housing until we can study, whether we want 50 feet across from Harbor Island Park, or is it right to have 50 feet kind of by McDonald's? You know what I mean? There are different parts of the C1 zone, I think, that are more sensitive and that people care more aesthetically about than others, and I think that our law should reflect that. And also part of what the infill housing law says now is that it's left up to the planning board to kind of define the zoning requirements instead of, and I'd rather see the Board of Trustees set the zoning requirements, and then if somebody wanted to go over and above, you take the typical path of going to the zoning board.
Now, is this directed at the dispute over the proposed development on Boston Post Road right across from the harbor?
Well, you know what?
Or the issues raised by that?
The impetus of it probably came from that, because that got everybody thinking about infill housing, myself included. This would not affect that.
Right, because that's something that was already in the works being discussed before.
It'll exclude everything that's already in the works. Because I didn't want it to be, it's just NIMBYism. People don't want. And
not in my backyard.
Not in my backyard, right? Thank you. Is the anachronism, right? So I made it, on potential development, because there's a lot of areas of the village that could potentially be developed for housing. And the market is such now that there's an incentive for developers to do that. And we have to decide, who's going to decide what Mamaroneck looks like. Is it going to be outside developers who are going to come in here, make their money, and not care about what happens at the end product? Or are we going to, kind of take the bull by the horns and say, all right, you can develop, but we want to put limits on it, and we want to make sure that the product is what Mamaroneck needs for the future.
Well, let me ask you this. It seems almost counterintuitive that residents would want to live in a commercial zone. Mm-hmm. And is that why this wasn't addressed at some earlier time? I mean, I think of an industrial area, heavy commercial area. Who would want to live there? And are there safety issues for residents?
Well, a lot of the time what happened is that I think the impetus for this is that years ago there were a lot of commercial areas that were going fallow, and nobody was renting them or using them. So the idea was, well, we could put housing there, and housing is and development. I'm not anti-development. I just want to make sure that we control the development. It's smart development. And also the impetus was for affordable housing, but you don't have to build affordable housing. It favors affordable housing, but any developer could come in and put luxury housing, which is what the market is calling for right now. And I don't blame a developer for trying to make money. That's their job. But I think as an elected official, we have to protect the residents and protect, what Mamaroneck is going to become. Are we going to be a city, or are we going to remain a village? And
this is just to stop things until you figure it out.
Until we figure it out, yeah.
Okay.
Take a little hiatus.
Okay. When are you proposing this?
We're going to discuss it as a board on Monday night, March 13th. So if anybody's seeing this before March 13th, please come down to Village Hall Monday night, 7 o'clock.
And you're taking public comment?
We're taking public comment, and then hopefully, we'll have a vote to hold a public hearing, at which time the law will be introduced and voted upon.
Okay. Let's go to another zone, marine zone.
Okay.
What's going on with that? And I guess the big topic there is the Mamaroneck Beach and Yacht Club.
Well,
proposed buildings.
Right. Well, what's going on is that we had a public hearing on the law, and there was input that made a lot of sense. A few people had ideas about how the law that we were proposing could be better improved. Could be improved. So we said, okay, we're going to go back to the drawing board, And we're reworking it, and the village attorney will reissue it to the Board of Trustees, and we'll publicly notice it and discuss it again. So that's where we are with that.
And what is it designed to do? Is it to restrict?
It's designed, well, I wouldn't say to restrict. It's designed to define seasonal housing. The law originally just said seasonal housing is allowed. But what's seasonal housing? I mean, is it 500 units? Is it 10 units? Is it 3 units?
And is it used for what period of time?
Exactly.
I see.
And so what we're trying to do is define the law.
And do you have any idea of what the parameters are going to be at this point?
What was proposed, and what probably won't change in the new proposal, is each club will be allowed 12 seasonal units. The seasonal units will be limited to 600 square feet each. And
how many people? Deal with that.
It doesn't deal with that. But and they also would not be allowed cooking facilities. So it would be more of a hotel type thing.
And over what period of time?
It was a 6-month period. I forget the exact, maybe it was from April to November. I don't remember, it was 6 months.
And when is this going to hit village meetings?
It should be, I would think, and this isn't an exact science because it depends on what the lawyers are doing. I would think in the next month.
If somebody wanted to come and comment on it, how would they find out when to appear?
Well, they could always check the village website because it has the agenda for the meeting.
What's that website? Do you know it off the
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay. You can, I'll tell everyone, I don't know it off the top of my head either, but go to Google and put in Village of Mamaroneck and it'll give you the website.
It'll be the first, right, exactly. But if they can't make the meetings and they have feelings or comments, they can mail those comments to the Village of Mamaroneck Board of Trustees, 123 Mamaroneck Avenue, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Okay. The Larchmont Gazette reported that more than 200 people, including local, state, and federal lawmakers, showed up at Murray Avenue School on February 9th to hear about plans to redirect air traffic flying overhead. Federal Aviation Administration representatives explained the highly technical nature of proposed plans to increase efficiency of air traffic over our area. Will this reduce the noise? Well, Patty Horing from Quiet Skies Committee of RAIN says that the FAA's plans have little to do with reducing noise. Larchmont Mayor Ken Bialo agreed, saying, "I don't think they're thinking about landing patterns, much less the excessive concentration of low-flying planes over Larchmont and Mamaroneck headed for LaGuardia." He's working with Congresswoman Nita Lowey, who opened the meeting, to expand the scope of the FAA's study, to strongly consider the impact any plan would have on air noise along the Sound shore. The FAA has already agreed to give Lowey more information about how noise may change. She wants local residents to send comments to the FAA before June the 1st, so that, in her words, the quality of life on the Sound shore is improved with this redesign. The FAA presentation was part of a required environmental review process that includes publication of a draft environmental impact statement.
As we tape this show, Assemblyman Latimer hosted a panel discussion session in the town of Mamaroneck on personal choices for the 21st century: housing, investments, estate planning, elder law, and more. If you couldn't make it that night, you can see it on LMC-TV. Check the website, www.lmc-tv.org, and click on schedules. New York State Assemblyman George Latimer stopped by our studio to talk about the budget. It's March. April 1st is coming. New York State budget deadline. What's going to happen this year?
Well, we're hopeful that this will be the second year, Maura, in the last 21 years that we have an on-time budget. Last year we hit the mark, and that may not seem like a reason to pop open a champagne cork, but when you miss it for 20 years in a row, and the impact on the school district, the impact on a village budget, the impact on not-for-profits is so profound that you really have to deliver the budget on time. It's like back when I was in college, a professor would say, turn the paper in on time, it's an A paper. Turn it in a day late, it's a B. Turn it in 2 days late, it's a C. So we need to hit the mark, but we also need to have a budget that Mamaroneck and Larchmont residents can live with.
Okay, what's the budget looking like?
Well, I'd say the major issues right now are education and health care. The governor's proposal had cuts to health care that would affect Sarah Newman Nursing Home and other similar institutions in our area, Sound Shore Medical Center and White Plains Hospital. On the education side, there's really very little support that's given to school districts like Mamaroneck and Rhinebeck because they're perceived to be more affluent when compared against Yonkers, Mount Vernon, and other urban districts. There's some issues on the table that we have to deal with. There's a proposal out there to deal with more charter schools around the state to deal with education tax credits for parents who send their kids to parochial schools or private schools, and there's a diverse point of view on these issues. So we have to work those through, and we have until the end of the month to get the compromise we need. And when you compromise, you agree to do things that maybe isn't exactly what you wanted to do.
Do you think there'll be more money coming into our schools?
Well, I'm going to certainly fight for the most that we can get, and I think at a minimum we've got to hold harmless Rhinebeck and Mamaroneck school districts because people pay very high property taxes in this area. When the state backs off on funding these districts properly, that puts more burden on the property taxpayers. And you have lots of people, young couples in this area, senior citizens, even people who are wealthy are paying a disproportionate amount for property taxes, and some of that is what the state does to raise the impact of school taxes.
Because one of the last times we spoke about the unfunded state mandates. That's still an issue?
It's a major issue. And as we talk about No Child Left Behind, it is a wonderful concept to say that, and the standards of testing at 4th grade and 8th grade, all of these come with a price tag. So part of the argument that many of us have made is that while you want to mandate good schools and track the progress of students, you can't do it without money. So once you find out that kids at grade 4, grade 8 have deficiencies, you have to spend money to help them overcome those deficiencies, tutoring time, additional help, and so forth. And that's really what we're fighting for in this budget. So how well we do in this cycle and next year and the years to come will determine a lot about the quality of education and also how much it's going to cost us.
Are these unfunded state mandates also an issue in other areas besides education?
Oh, well, absolutely. I think healthcare is another one of those areas. And what it comes down to is a desire to see a good outcome. So you mandate something. You say all people should do this and all organizations should do this. But without the money to do that, you either guarantee failure or you require people to readdress resources from something they're already doing to just meet the mandate. It needs to be more negotiated between the lower governments and the state, and that's part of what I've been trying to advocate. But it isn't done in a year, and it isn't done in 2 years, and it takes a constant energy and effort. We've had some success, but we've got a ways to go.
Why should we care whether it is funded at the state or at the local level? Either way, we end up paying for it.
But there's a big difference, Maura, if you're paying for it out of your property taxes versus if you're paying for it out of your income taxes. The state drives the largest piece of its money from income tax. You pay proportionate to your income. If you're very wealthy or you're less wealthy, you pay proportionately. In your property taxes, you pay whatever the intrinsic value of the house is. If you and I live side by side in the same street with the same house, and I'm making much more than you are, our property taxes are not reflective of your income or lack of income in my income.
So you're saying that being taxed at the local level is more progressive?
No, so the opposite.
At the state
level.
Right
now, the village of Larchmont, the town of Mamaroneck, the village of Mamaroneck, in the way they tax, it hurts you disproportionately. So it makes sense for the state to pick up burden that currently is borne by the village and the town governments. And I've agreed with the local officials who constantly say the state is making us pay for things so that the state doesn't have to say that they've done this, but in fact it costs you more when it comes out of your property taxes based on your income. If you're a person of modest income, it's better for you to have income tax pay for the service at the state level than having to let the local governments do it.
Well, Maura, the Academy Awards generated lots of buzz around town, and for good reason, since 4 of the nominees hail from our community. Brokeback Mountain director Ang Lee returned to Larchmont with an Oscar for Best Director. Matt Dillon, who, if you don't know, was discovered at Homix Middle School, didn't win for Best Supporting Actor for his role in Crash, but the movie was named Best Film. 2 others with roots here were responsible for the blockbuster Capote. Dan Futterman was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay and Bennett Miller for Best Director. While neither took the top prize, the film's star, Philip Seymour Hoffman, did win for Best Actor. 3 weeks before Oscar night, Dan and Bennett came back to town to give us the inside story of Capote. Dan Futterman, who grew up in Larchmont, spoke to a standing room only crowd at Larchmont Library. A few days later, Bennett Miller, a Mamaroneck native, came to the Emmeline for a fundraiser screening and an interview. By now, you've probably heard that Dan and Bennett have been friends since 7th grade. Both graduated from MHS in 1985 and, while here, studied drama and video in the PACE program. In fact, I was one of their teachers. Here's a photo of the duo snapped by a fellow student, Michael Kammer. That's Dan on the left, editing a video with Bennett. Both were in my PACE video class at the time. While Dan pursued a successful acting career, acting on Broadway and appearing in The Birdcage, Judging Amy, Will and Grace, among others, Bennett made his mark as a director of music videos, documentaries, commercials, and the 1998 feature film The Cruise. Luckily, Dan's talk was videotaped and is now playing on LMC-TV. Not so for Marshall Fine's interview and audience Q&A with Bennett, who's a bit camera shy.
Mike, I saw the New York Times had you mentioned. I guess Bennett mentioned you.
Neighbors told me that I was in the Times.
Well,
yeah.
I have it right here. So, what was he like as a student?
Well, you know, actually, I was interviewed by a reporter for People magazine who asked that very question. And I guess she was looking for some inside information. I remember Bennett as a very creative guy, and I especially remember these quirky little characters that he introduced to the whole school and the community, for that matter. We were on cable. People who chewed bubble gum, and people who shaped hamburgers into animals, and people who went swimming in Long Island Sound in snowstorms. And the cruise actually also featured a quirky character, the tour guide on one of those double-decker buses. So Capote and the characters...
They had an eye for it back then.
He had an eye for it back then, and yeah, and I think, well, Capote, I think, won 23 awards.
Wow.
Not the Oscar, but
well, I love that photograph.
It's cool, isn't it? It was on display in the high school for years, and I'm lucky I found it.
It's wonderful. Well, police patrolling of the future. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Wendy Deshay tells about the Village of Mamaroneck's high-tech new system.
You definitely want to think twice before making that illegal U-turn across Mamaroneck Ave's double line to grab that parking spot, because if caught, your car's image, registration barcode, and possibly the color of your coat will instantaneously be transmitted to the computer monitor of the patrol car sitting on the corner belonging to the Village of Mamaroneck Police Department. Yes, the future is here. Mamaroneck officers now have computerized mobile offices in patrol cars that run on a software program called Total Enforcement. It connects with the New York State Police Information Network in Albany, allowing local police departments to share data with others. Through NY Spin, the local departments can interact with the National Crime Information Center. The downside is that if a nearby officer catches you in an illegal act, they can produce a citation on the spot from an in-car printer. The upside is that this innovative technology increases efficiency in administrative and policing tasks, and therefore saving you taxpayers money. This system also enables different departments such as police, fire, and sanitation to communicate with one another on a regular basis and instantaneously in emergencies, such as our recent blizzard. It also avoids communication gaps such as that of 9/11. Mamaroneck is only one of 3 local police departments in Westchester County equipped to immediately, from patrol or headquarters, interact with the New York State Police Information Center and the National Crime Information Center. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Wendy Deshay.
We always hear students saying, "Why do I need to learn this? When will I ever use it?" An annual event at Hommox Middle School tries to answer those questions. Here with more is Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Wendy Deshay.
The big question on every student's mind at an early age is, why are we learning this stuff? Well, Hommox Middle School is hoping their students find the answers they're looking for during their annual Real Work Schoolwork event. 48 parents and community members showed up to explain what they do for a living and how their middle school education helped them with that job today. The participants were a diverse group with an impressive cast of speakers. Just to name a few on hand this year, there was a judge, a mayor, various investors, a Broadway producer, 2 Emmy Award-winning television producers, the global director for Save the Children, and the founder for JetBlue. Students were amazed to discover how the tedious skills they learned today, such as math, science, and grammar, can be of enormous resources later in life. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Wendy Deshay.
And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
If you want to see this news show again, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 p.m. We record one show each week, and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV, channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see it, you can. Call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the news show. They'll try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
And this reminder, this news program is an all-volunteer effort, and we could use a few more volunteers, either behind the scenes or as a reporter, or maybe you'd like to shoot some video. Whatever the case, we need you.
That's right, we're looking for the future Bennett Millers.
There we go.
If you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, we have something for you to do. Stop by some Thursday night in the LMC-TV studios and see how we do what we do.
The LMC-TV studios are in Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs from the landmark Walter's Hot Dog stand. We get things started around 7 p.m. and we'd love to see you.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video of an event that you'd like us to put on this show, bring it to the studio or write to us at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News in care of LMC-TV, Mamaroneck Town Center, 740 West Boston Post Road, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Mike Witch.
And I'm Maura Carlin. We'll see you next week. Results from the Village of Larchmont election.
More on the day laborer site.
A peek at the proposed school budget.
The Kemper Memorial lawsuit continues.
Local money for the skies.
More on C1 zones in Mamaroneck.
New educational grants from the School Foundation.
And indoor golf. Those stories and more coming up on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Mike Witch.
And I'm Maura Carlin. Our top story. Election results are in for the Village of Larchmont, and it was a clean sweep for the coalition party. Liz Feld will be the new mayor, joined by incumbent trustee Marlene Colbert and political newcomer Jim Milstein. Now, as you may recall, Feld is currently a trustee and deputy mayor under fellow Republican Mayor Ken Bialo. In a surprising move, she broke from Bialo to take him on and lose in the Republican primary, and then created her own People Before Politics party before joining Democrats Colbert and Milstein on the coalition party line. They received endorsements from the Larchmont Police Benevolent Association and the Professional Firefighters Union. Key issues in the campaign centered on the handlings of the last police contract, taxes, hiring of a village engineer and an administrator, and management style. At a packed Village Hall late election night, a choked-up Mayor Bialo announced the results, followed by speeches all around. One common theme, besides the numerous thank yous, is that Larchmont is one village and everyone should now come together to make it better. At the end of the night, the Larchmont police force came together and lined up to give Mayor-elect Feld a proper salute as she left Village Hall. Feld, Colbert, and Milstein are scheduled to appear on this show next week before they take office on April 3rd. And I have to thank LMC-TV volunteers Anthony Palmini and Will Ramirez for staying with me until 11 o'clock at night to get that footage of the salute, as well as Daniel Gilks, who luckily had an extra camera.
Two recent incidents of BB gun shootings at Mamaroneck schools. Just this month, a 16-year-old who lives in the town was charged with menacing a 14-year-old classmate with a BB gun outside Mamaroneck High School. Fortunately, no one was hurt. MHS Principal Dr. Mark Orfinger was quoted in the Larchmont Gazette saying, "Our school district has a zero-tolerance policy regarding weapons on school grounds. Anyone who comes to school with a weapon," he says, "will be automatically suspended for a minimum of 5 days. He says if it's serious, and with a weapon it always is, we ask the superintendent to convene a hearing, at which point there may be further sanctions. The school also is cooperating fully with the police department. In another incident in February, police were called to the Chatsworth Avenue school playground on report of a man with a gun. The man turned out to be a juvenile and the gun a BB gun. In New York State, it is illegal for anyone under 16 to possess a BB gun outside of a permitted hunting situation. In the village of Larchmont, the law is even stricter. Possession of a pellet gun by anyone of any age is illegal.
New Mamaroneck School Superintendent Dr. Paul Freed put it on the table, the first proposed budget of his administration. It calls for nearly $104 million and represents an increase of 7.91% with an expected tax increase of just under 8%, 7.97. Last year's increase was 7.52%. And Dr. Freed says the proposed Mamaroneck budget falls within the mean of neighboring school districts, which he expects to be around 8%. According to Dr. Freed, as reported in Larchmont Gazette, it was difficult to keep the increase at this level as state and federal mandates, when coupled with contractual obligations like salaries, pensions, health insurance alone, would have hiked the budget over 8.2%. So they made cuts of 1.7%, which allowed the addition of 1.4% in new items. Those new items include an early intervention teacher to be shared by Chatsworth and Murray schools in the hopes of providing early intervention and thereby avoiding special education costs later. A bilingual social worker at Homix to assist Spanish-speaking students, many of whom come from the Mamaroneck Avenue School where there is a bilingual social worker. Also included was an additional third-grade teacher at the Murray Avenue School and funding for 3 additional contingency positions depending upon enrollment. The high school would have an additional counselor, which would reduce the student counselor ratio from 197 to 170, which is closer to the other districts nearby who have a ratio of 167. $189,000 is allocated for security aides at district schools. Cuts were made in the use of consultants and staff development matters and the absence of funding for relocation of the Kemper Memorial. Copies of the proposed budget will be available in the student superintendent's office for your review. Additional budget sessions, well, they've already passed actually, was held March 21st. And again on Tuesday, April 21st, the board will meet to adopt a final budget, and public input is always welcome.
As you just heard, the proposed school budget does not include funds for moving the Kemper Memorial. That's because the lawsuit is not yet over, even though on appeal the court sided with the school district, finding that the Kemper relative, Richard Cantor, does not have standing to sue. Now, however, Cantor has petitioned for leave to appeal the decision to the New York Court of Appeals. The Mamaroneck School Board has confirmed that it will not go forward with relocation of the Kemper Memorial until the legal action is resolved. So, no funding in this school budget. Of course, we'll keep you posted on future developments.
At the March 13th Village of Mamaroneck board meeting, Trustee Tom Murphy made a motion for a moratorium on infill housing in the C1 zone, which would exempt all development presently under consideration by the zoning and planning boards. Well, in plain terms, Foley should disclose that he owns property in the C1 zone that's currently up for sale. In the end, no board member seconded Trustee Murphy's motion, but Trustee Murphy told me that he does intend to make this motion again and will be following the story for you.
Last week, the Journal News reported that a consultant to the developer of luxury condos going up across the street from Columbus Park in Mamaroneck urged the village to disband the day laborers who gather there. John Lessie, I think is how he pronounces his name, complained about day workers who can't get jobs hanging around there loitering. That's a quote from his letter. He continues, a problem exists on Van Ranst Place, which would affect, if not inhibit, any contemplated development. The daily loitering of day workers soliciting employment, which now number in the hundreds, severely affects the economic opportunity of any development in the area. Lessie, a resident of Orienta section of the village, represents the New Jersey-based developer of Parkview condominiums at Mamaroneck. The 2 buildings will contain 41 duplex units, will be built in the style of Manhattan brownstones, with price tags of more than $500,000 on Sheldrake and Van Ranst Place, across the park from the Metro North Railroad station. The contractors broke ground for the buildings in late December. According to the newspaper, the finding of the consultant's letter has angered advocates for the laborers who are wary of the village board's 3-2 vote that abruptly closed the village's official hiring site back in February. It also comes at a time when advocates, local clergy, village and county officials continue to look for a new hiring site. Mayor Phil Trifoletti says that he never saw the letter, saying, quote, "The condos being built there have nothing to do with the decisions I made or anyone else on the board made with regards to the hiring site. This all started," says the mayor, "with the park being abused, and we did what any municipality would do. We took an out-of-control situation and brought it back to control," unquote. Since the closing of the site, day laborers have continued to wait along Mamaroneck Avenue near Van Ranst Place, where they say a police presence has made it difficult for them to meet contractors who want to hire them. Trustee Tom Murphy, who along with Trifoletti voted against closing the Columbus Park site, called for the developer to work with the day laborers to find another site.
Mike, is this a recent letter that was written?
No. He wrote this letter back in 2003, so it's 3 years old now. And I reached him on the phone. He thought that the Journal News had made much ado about nothing, and in fact he said they selectively quoted from his letter because he thought that the day laborers could certainly meet down the street from the new housing development.
And the new housing development's going up anyway.
Yes, it is.
And started before they closed the site.
Yes.
Okay, thanks for that story. And now we turn to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Wendy Deshay, who has more on day laborers and how they clean up.
If Columbus Park looks cleaner, you have some local day laborers to thank. In an organized effort to clean up their image and restore the park, a group of about 15 men and 1 woman picked up debris and raked leaves in the park on March 19th. The image of the day laborers has taken a hit since the village of Mamaroneck closed Columbus Park as an official day laborer hiring site. They want people to know that they are not bad people and do contribute for the greater of the area. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Wendy Deshay.
Low-flying airplanes annoy many people in our viewing area, especially during the summer when we spend time outdoors. The Village of Larchmont Board of Trustees voted recently, unanimously by the way, to make a contribution of $15,000 to the Quiet Skies Committee of RAIN, a citizens activist group. The committee is trying to reduce noise over Larchmont and Mamaroneck by responding to plans by the Federal Aviation Authority to redesign approaches and takeoff corridors in the Northeast. The Quiet Skies Committee estimates it will need about $100,000 to analyze the redesigned proposals. The $15,000 from Larchmont Village will go toward paying for aviation consultants and legal services. The Town of Mamaroneck and the Village of Mamaroneck boards have also been asked to contribute. No word yet on their decisions.
Former Town of Mamaroneck police officer Frank Della Camara pleaded guilty to drug charges in exchange for 2 one-year prison sentences that will run concurrently. Della Camara, as you may recall, was charged with attempted drug sale and possession of stolen property in 2004. He was caught on tape several times talking to an undercover officer about selling cocaine. He also was caught by an undercover officer trying to buy video equipment that he believed was stolen. Della Camara will be sentenced on June 6th.
A story in the Journal News earlier this month explained how engineers are now using waste-eating bacteria and filters to treat sewage, all to help make Long Island Sound a bit healthier. Specifically, they're trying to remove nitrogen. Westchester's 4 sewage treatment plants by the Sound in New Rochelle, Mamaroneck, Portchester, and Blind Brook, with a small amount coming from North Castle, add 4,200 pounds of nitrogen a day to the waters. That's according to the Environmental Protection Agency. It's nitrogen that fuels the algae blooms that ultimately take oxygen from the water. That creates dead spots, making it hard for sea life to breathe, even causing fish kills during the summer. In an agreement reached with New York and Connecticut and the EPA, the county must cut the rate to 1,780 pounds per day by 2014. That's a reduction of 58.5% from levels measured 2 years ago. With the help of engineering firms, the county has tried 4 systems, 3 using bacteria to further break down waste, and 1 that uses high doses of chlorine. But chlorine presents problems. It's expensive, and it's got to be removed from the treated waste before it reaches the Sound. The county is putting together a final plan which they'll submit to the State Department of Environmental Conservation, hopefully for approval later this year. By 2009, the county is expected to reach an interim goal, cutting the nitrogen almost by half. All this work has cost the county $2.7 million so far. Another $5.6 million will be spent to evaluate the 4 sewage treatment plants that empty into the Sound to see which system works the best. The county is looking to the state and federal government for additional funds to then equip all plants with filtering technology.
Smart boards and document cameras, an orchestra partnership with the New York Philharmonic, and a girls' softball complex at Central School. These are just some of the diverse programs that will be made available next year in the Mamaroneck schools, thanks to the Mamaroneck Schools Foundation. Continuing its 10-year tradition of funding innovative programs beyond the scope of the regular school budget, the foundation, at its March 7th ceremony, awarded an impressive 29 grants totaling $288,000 for the upcoming school year. Grants were given for professional development, technology, science and math, literacy, music and cultural enrichment, athletics, and special education. Foundation officials said they received a record number of requests and were thrilled with the range of innovative and thoughtful programs the faculty took the time and effort to create. Since its founding in 1997, the group has awarded more than $1.5 million to programs in the schools. The Mamaroneck Schools Foundation is made up of volunteer parents and community members who donate their time and services so that more than 90% of the funds raised can go to directly funding the programs.
Chatsworth School gets a new principal, and will skateboarding continue in the playground? Larchmont Mamaroneck News community reporter Amy Schachtel explains.
As many of you may know, Principal Jane Hand of the Chatsworth Avenue School is retiring on June 30th of this year. She has been and will remain a very respected person to many of our children and many of us. Having received board approval already, we will now welcome Mr. Stephen Castor as the new principal of Chatsworth Avenue School. One of the issues Mr. Castor will be dealing with immediately is that of the Chatsworth Playground being at risk of closure. As recently as last week, Superintendent Paul Freed spoke at the board meeting regarding the safety factor between skateboarders and other children and teenagers playing in the yard. It's been approximately 2 years that groups on both sides of this issue have explored and examined different solutions to this situation. Our kids should have a safe and open place to play. With me today, I have Fred Tuck. Thank you for coming here, Fred.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Fred, you're here for many reasons. I know you have a child in that school who plays on that playground. I know that you have a store that sells skateboards and things like that. So the safety issue has got to affect you on both sides. Please tell me your take on this.
Well, there's certainly, I think there's a need for a further dialogue between all the parties concerned. And this past fall I met with Superintendent Freed and you know, asked him what his position was and found him to be a very proactive and dynamic person and very receptive to finding a solution to the problems at hand. And my understanding was that the conversation needed to be further with the village, and the recreation committee needed to be involved, and there could have been a solution, but for whatever reason, you know, it did not happen. There has been a lot of negative publicity, some of it warranted, some of it not, directed towards the skaters.
Had there been an actual problem?
Well, there had been a number of issues where, and certainly these are issues that I have talked to the kids on a daily basis. They all come into our shop, they all buy things in the shop, and so I'm interacting with them every day.
Do you think you've gotten the problem resolved to a point?
No, I don't think so. I think that there is a good portion of the kids that are great kids, and they need a positive outlet, and this is a great place for them to have that positive outlet.
And I do know that what you have brought to Larchmont is a place where they can find this positive enforcement and support for what you're providing, and now we just need a place for them to do it.
Well, I think if there were some short-term solution for Chatsworth where there's a monitoring situation, and I'm there almost every day with my 7-year-old who's an avid skateboarder, and I've seen there have been some issues with some behavior and with some trash and some other things, but all in all, the kids have been, you know, from what I've seen, very well behaved, and, you know, they're just trying to use a facility and do something that they love and enjoy.
A local team made it to the NCAA tourney, and Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Rory Roth tells how they fared.
Iona College had been making headlines recently, and it was all for a great reason. Iona College men's basketball team made its 8th NCAA tournament appearance when they took on the 4th-seeded and number 17 ranked LSU at the Jacksonville Veterans Memorial Coliseum. The Iona Gales hadn't been in the tournament since 2001. On March 12th, 400 friends and families celebrated in the Mulcahy Gym at the Heinz Center at Iona College to celebrate the team's selection in the 65-team field. Their roster included 5 graduating seniors, most of which from the New York area. Unfortunately, Iona faced a defeat last week in their first-round NCAA game when they came face-to-face with LSU's Glenn Davis, the Southeastern Player of the Year. Davis is also referred to as Big Baby, considering his 6'9" and 310-pound physique. "I didn't know he was that big," Ricky Soliver of the Gales said. "When we were warming up, I saw him and my eyes just opened." LSU shot 65% in the second half, with Davis making 6 of 7 shots to wear down Iona's exhausted front court. Steve Burt and Soliver dominated early, giving Iona hope of making it to the second round. The tandem produced nearly 42 points a game during their regular season. The final score, 80-64 LSU. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Rory Roth.
Golf in a gym? Well, Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News reporter Wendy Deshay tees up with this story.
Weather schmeather. It never ceases to amaze me how golfers find a way to play in all kinds of weather. And a local pro is teeing up a new group of duffers in an unexpected location. Professional golf instructor Rodney Loesch is teaching beginners in the Mamaroneck High School gym as part of the Larchmont-Mamaroneck Continuing Education Program. On Monday nights, newbies or those wishing to just brush up on their strokes can spend 2 hours working on their game. How do they stay safe? Well, they use wiffle balls, not actual golf balls. And that does limit the instruction a bit. It's hard to work on the short game that way. But Mr. Loesch aims to teach the fundamentals and even more fundamentally, a love of the game. He told the Sound in Town report of one student who went on to become club champ at her home course. For Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Wendy Deshay.
You're invited to 2 great events at Mamaroneck High School. First, on Friday, March 31st, get a taste of Mamaroneck to celebrate the opening of the new high school cafe. To the tune of musical offerings by high school students, you'll be able to sample select items from the cafe menu, as well as culinary delights from many local restaurants. To make a reservation, which you'll need, call Hoda Gobriel at 220-3104 or email at GHOBRIAL@mamkschools.org. It costs $5 per person to cover expenses. The event sponsored by the Mamaroneck High School Planning Council with the support and participation of many local restaurants. The feasting goes from 7 to 9:30 p.m. again on March 31st.
You're also invited to take a tour of the new high school building. On Sunday, April 2nd at noon, be guided through the new spaces of the high school by students. You'll also meet the new school superintendent, Dr. Paul Freed. No reservations needed for this event. Just meet in the tiered classroom. That's just inside the new Post Road entrance. If you can't make it but want a tour, you can call the school 220-3070 and arrange a private student-led tour during school hours.
And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont-Mamaroneck Community News.
If you'd like to see this new show again, you can. It's on every weekday night at 7 p.m. We record one show each week and it's replayed on this channel, LMC-TV, channel 75.
Or if you want to request to see it, you can. Call LMC-TV after 4 in the afternoon during the week at 698-6808 and ask to see the news show. They'll try to put it on at a time that's convenient for you to watch.
This reminder, this news program is an all-volunteer effort. We could use a few more volunteers, either behind the scenes or as a reporter. Or maybe you'd like to shoot some video. Whatever the case, we need you.
In short, if you want to volunteer to help us put this program on, we have something for you to do. Stop by some Thursday night in the LMC-TV studios and see how we do what we do.
The LMC-TV studios are in Mamaroneck High School, the Palmer Avenue side, just up the stairs across the street from the landmark Walter's Hot Dog Stand. We get things started around 7 p.m. and love to see you here.
Also, if you have any comments or suggestions or some video of an event that you'd like us to put on this new show, bring it to the studio or write to us at Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News in care of LMC-TV, Mamaroneck Town Center, 740 West Boston Post Road, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543.
Thanks again for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Mike Witch.
And I'm Maura Carlin. We'll see you next week.